Good afternoon. My name is Cindy Hamilton, and I am one of 3 co-founders of the group Opt Out Orlando. We have, for the past several years, assisted families who choose to opt their students out of high-stakes testing through test refusal. People come to us for many reasons. They have great students who test poorly. They know the test is a lousy measurement of student gains and growth. They want local control returned to our districts, or they object to the path education policies and laws are taking on our public system. Whatever the reason, it is usually centered around something going wrong with their own child and their child's experience within our accountability system. I thought I knew what I was going to say to all of you today and have prepared a different speech, so please forgive me for reading this one as it was written this morning. My plans changed with a private message I received from a local student last night. I had a local high school senior reach out to me through Opt Out Orlando. He has a 2.9 GPA and has failed FCAT reading. He has been remediated over and over again with no real intervention to help this student. He has taken 2 free shots at the ACT and is missing the mark by 3 points, which would serve as his replacement score. He cannot afford to pay for any more chances. This young man will not graduate unless he is able to produce an acceptable test score on this one test. He's good at math, but has had little opportunity to experience any of the fun classes that his school has offered during his 4 years there. He is brave to share this, and he is doomed without help. He saw me on the news yesterday, and he thinks I'm a fighter. He thinks I can help him. My heart is breaking. There are thousands of students just like this one all over our state. Failing them is not an option. We must have change. We must end the high stakes attached to these tests. We must begin to focus on an assessment system that will evaluate the student based on real work completed in the classroom. We must return autonomy to our trusted teachers and at the same time reevaluate a remediation program that is not working. The added mandates are preventing teaching from happening. Ask reading teachers how many students in this remediation classes don't need to be there. How many have great readers stuck in these classes based only on their failure of one test? This prevents the students that really need the help from getting the focused instruction that would benefit them. Please ask the teachers. Finally, the opt-out movement is not anti-testing. It is not anti-assessment. We want a quality, valid, tried test that measures student gains and growth that will inform instruction. We don't want punitive consequences attached. Opting out is the last resort, and we've tried everything else, from appealing to our local boards to bombarding our state officials with emails and letters. I have 3 sentences left. May I finish?
Of course.
We meet with you and our own reps. We watch a lot of finger pointing going on. We have not thrown our kids on the front lines. Our laws, mandates, and those that created them have done that. The fear-mongering coming out of the Florida Department of Education must stop. We will not be turned away from our task at hand, and neither will the families in our 25 statewide opt-out groups.
Thank you, Ms. Hamilton.
You're welcome.
Members, are there any questions? Representative Miller?
Cindy, thanks for taking the time to come visit with us today. I know we've had one brief discussion together, and I see a lot lately in the news. Have we determined whether opting out is a legal or illegal option? I mean, has there been a discussion or ruling on that?
Pam Stewart, the Commissioner of Education, answered the Senate Education Committee's request for that information. It was released on Monday evening, where she explained to the Senate in a public letter that there is not an option to opt out. And the way that the statute reads is that all districts and students must participate in the state assessment program. In our procedure of test resistance, we are participating. The student sits for the test and does not answer any questions. The system records them as having participated, and they receive a code called an NR2. It's not a score. A score would be a 1 or a 2 or 3 up through 5, but it's an NR2. And that code does not negatively impact a teacher evaluation or a school grade. So we are operating on the premise that our students are participating, and we have documentation from the state from the Florida Department of Education that says answering questions is not mandated by the law. We're not asking the districts to opt out. We're asking them to get out of our way and let us do it until the law changes and the high stakes are removed.
Representative Sullivan?
Thank you, Chairman. So I'm just trying to track here, so correct me. But in essence, are you basically saying that you just want there to be no tests that high stakes are associated with, that you want there to be no test that teachers pay or school grade or any of these other things are intertwined with?
I want a test that a student takes that's going to inform instruction. That means that it's going to be a tool for the teacher to use. They're going to understand where the growth and the gaps have happened. I want that test. I want a test that is, it's not going to determine that one test. Even if a kid has a 4.0 GPA, the kid's not going to graduate if they don't pass it. Those are the kinds of high stakes that we're looking at. We want authentic assessment. We want assessment that's been developed with educators involved. We would like our students to know exactly where they stand so that when they need help, it's been clearly defined.
So I guess from what I can gather from the conversation, you don't like the idea of attaching other things to the test. Again, when I was putting my children in school, I was trying to find the best school in the community to where to attend, where I'd like my kids to, where I wanted to live, what schools I want my kids to go to. So you would rather us not have any ability of knowing which schools are adequately instructing students, whether the kids are passing or not passing, that the public not be able to know that information?
You're asking if I want a test that was given to the students that's going to tell me if the school is a good school or not?
It's not a matter of the test. That's what we have right now is our only ability to be able to assess if students are learning the knowledge. If we don't have some sort of assessment, then it's completely subjective of whether or not you think the student learned the knowledge. So what we've done is we've taken the assessment, and then after we've had the assessment, we use that assessment to determine if the kids in that school are being taught what we would like them, being taught the standards of the state. It seems as though the high stakes that you're attaching to it is just we're using data that's been provided from an assessment. We met this morning and toured a school this morning, and their take on the school was we just teach the information and the test takes care of itself.
Was that a school here in Orange County?
It actually was this morning, yes. So I guess some of it may be a perception that all of these high stakes are placed on the test, but the test is just merely an assessment of whether or not the student has learned the knowledge.
I think that if you talk to a wider base of teachers here in Orange County, they would disagree with you wholeheartedly. What you are saying is that as long as you teach the standards, everybody's going to do fine on the test. We are anticipating a 70% failure rate on this new test this year, and that is based on information from a fully implemented year from Kentucky, New York, and Utah. 70%. So I don't even know, I don't know how to answer your question in a reasonable way other than to say, look at the states that have already failed at this. The cut scores were bouncing all over the place. We're hearing from the Florida Department of Education, we're not even going to know the test results until a year from now. It could be a winter test release date for test scores. So the teachers that I speak to, and I speak to teachers in the teachers union in my neighborhood schools, and they come to us in droves to tell us what their real life is like. And I just don't hear what you're saying. I'm sorry.
President Gardner.
In some of your comments, there's really an underlying issue here that I struggle with is defining high stakes, right? When I took the SAT, that was high stakes because I was going to be judged on whether I could get into college or not. When I took my driving test, that was high stakes because I didn't want my parents driving me around anymore. So I think we have to determine what is a measurable goal for everyone. But in our discussions, we've asked our committees to look at all these issues, to look at the preparation to make sure we're ready. But I just would caution this idea that trying to define one test as high stakes and another test not high stakes.
First of all, I would like to point out that a driving test and an SAT test are choice tests. You choose if you want to drive. The failure of our state tests keeps kids from graduating. That's what we're looking at here. And that's what this is about. We have a large network of parents, and we are all watching, and we're all anxiously waiting. And we thank you for your vigilance here.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Hamilton.
you.
And if I could just say a comment, and I appreciate what you're doing. It's great as a teacher to see parents who are involved. I know this is a very controversial issue, and it's a very passionate issue, but I'd also like to mention that as someone who ran for office because of what's happening in education, I'd like to tell you that I've feel very reassured by the people that I've been able to work with, both on the House and the Senate side, that you have concerned representatives and senators who care about what's happening in our schools, and they really do want to find solutions, but they also care about how our schools and our children are being taught. So please know that the people that are sitting back here really do care about what's happening in our schools.